We only get one shot at this life thing. Might as well make it an extraordinary one. Like maybe there was always a little seed in us that demanded more of life, or like to go out there and get some. I want to empower women with the skills and confidence to explore the backcountry and to pursue anything they dare to dream. We're in a pretty hectic zone.
No one will ever understand how hard it is.
Oh my God, we've lost our minds. We'll all be talking about that trip for the rest of our lives.
As image makers, we need to look around. We need to see the world. We need to go to museums. We need to go to galleries so we can understand the use of colour and light and shadow. In that respect, everything needs to be considered. If there's a rule for the images that we're trying to make, they shouldn't just appeal to architects. They should be images that, when framed, your grandmother falls in love with it and wants to hang it on her wall. So the purpose of our image making is not to recreate a photograph. We have the ability to play with light, to play with atmosphere that potentially makes that image more visually engaging. This is our perception of reality. There's an understanding of the colour within a composition. So that colour palette is often driven by the colour in a brick, or the timber, or the floor. The image in its entirety needs to harmonise. As well as photography, there are painters that we look at. The way that they have painted with colour and tone and light, they're in museums. And it kind of occurred to me that we are recording the architecture of our time. We want to celebrate those images by framing them and put them on a wall. So in years to come, could you have a museum where there are digital paintings that people want to come and visit?
Welcome back to the Australian photographic landscape. Sorry, I'm still thinking of the goggle eyes. Welcome back to the Australian Photographic Prize, the landscape professional digital category. So I had it all summarised into one sentence. Thank you to Godox, the sponsors of the category. And if you are around, you've still got a couple of hours to come down to Photographic Studies College in Melbourne, Thistlethwaite Street, I think it is. And I'm sure Julie and the crew would love to see you down here. Come down and see the judging and learn a few things from our esteemed panel of judges. The landscape category in the professional division in digital has the following description. For this competition, a landscape is a photograph of natural scenery, but may include people or man-made elements, provided that none of these additional elements dominate the photograph. Composite images, including stitched panoramas, are allowed as long as digital post-production is not a significant part of conveying the visual message. It's open to student, amateur and professional photographers. As I said, this category is sponsored by Godox, who've been a massive supporter of the Australian Photographic Prize this year. We thank Godox. Godox provide lighting equipment and are an expert and innovator of gear for photographers, videographers, filmmakers and many others. The winner of this landscape category wins a trophy and the title of 2024 Australian Landscape Photographer of the Year. They also go into the running to win the professional division and a Godox lighting prize worth $1,000. Someone asked me earlier, what could you do with Godox in the landscape? Well, have a look at some of the lit trees and things like that. There's an amazing array of ways you can use lights in the landscape. The international winner of the landscape category wins a trophy and the title of 2024 International Landscape Photographer of the Year. And the Australian winner will also be going into the running to win the overall Australian Digital Photographer of the Year, winning a Nikon Australian voucher valued at $5,000. As I said, we had a fantastic panel of judges, and just looking in front of me, I see some of Australia's best landscape components, along with some illustrative and creative photographers as well. That mixture will give us a good collaborative approach to our judging and give us a good all-rounded final score or opinion. I'll just run through quickly the judges and why they're here. Alan Moyle, whose background includes landscape, family and portrait. Tasmanian Photographer of the Year in the past, Victorian Album of the Year, Master 3 gold bars with the RPP and an NZIPP Master. Produces projects that build community and known for quite a few of those. He has a twisted take on the world, we all knew that, Alan. And one of his major projects in life is being a dad, which is a very meritorious one. Harriet Tarbuck, portraiture and documentary, is one of the three major driving forces behind the Photo Collective. Is also a Walkley Foundation judge and a strong component of mentoring in photography in Australia. Joe Howell, pets, animals, bugs and other natural things. Bugs, hey? Could have used that earlier, we had some problems with the computers. Photographer of the Year, SWPP, and Sienna, Experimental Photographer of the Year. Part of her projects would involve working, telling conservation stories, etc., and making bugs appealing. Okay, making bugs appealing, that's a good one. Kelly Barker, Creative and Commercial at WA, Illustrative Photographer of the Year in the past, a master with 2 gold bars with the RPP and highly commended in the Wanner Art Prize. Initiated the Pro Photography WA movement, which is now a strong industry representative in Western Australia with a great group of people, and is writing a book based on finding your own creativity. Mika Boynton, Landscape and Aerial and Abstract, Australian Landscape Photographer of the Year at the NZIPP Awards last year, Australian Landscape In-Camera Professional Photographer of the Year 2022 at NZ Iris Awards, Landscape category winner Asia Pacific in the past with Ocean Deity, which I think is a picture of from Shark Bay. Has other names. Ocean Deity was very good though. NZIPP International Photographer of the Year in the past at the Iris Awards and winner of the Epson International Panner Awards, a very strong proponent of landscape. Master FIAP, Federation of International Art Photographic, Master New Zealand Institute of Professional Photography and an Australian Photography Society Grand Master, GMAPS. Nathan Madigan, Weddings, Portrait, Travel. As you can see, we have a very diverse range of judges. Pro Photographer, All Off Awards, highest scoring prints in travel and documentary. NZIP International Photographer of the Year 2020. AIPPWA Wedding Photographer of the Year over 2 or 3 different years. AIPP National Wedding Photographer of the Year finalist 3 times. Is a TEDx curator and speaker coach. Pivoted to story coaching, where he helps small businesses tell and live better stories, amongst other things. And was also ghostwriting a novel for an incredible human from within our photographic community. He's got a few things on his belt, that boy. Paul Dodd, Portraiture, Architecture, Minimalism, Wildlife, 3rd place International Portrait Photographer of the Year, runner-up Epson International Panner Awards in Architecture, and a finalist at APP Portrait twice, top 10 Capture Awards Landscape. 1,000 Faces is one of his projects, stopping 1,000 people in the street to take their photograph. Good luck with that.
I did.
You did? 2,000, done it twice. And last but not least, Paul Holland, Landscape, Travel, Aerial, Environmental Portraiture, Documentary and Event Photography. Grand Masters with Photography in NZIPP, Master Photography 2 AIPP, Overseas Photographer of the Year, now International, POTY, Photographer of the Year, NZIP, twice, 7 times Tasmanian Professional Landscape Photographer of the Year, 4 times Tasmanian Commercial Photographer of the Year. TEDx speaker, The Role of Art in Modern Conservation, co-founder of the Light Collective, and one of my favourite things that Paul's done is the Men with Heart project, 23-year-long photo documentary project. I think it's important to read that out for the fact that these people give up their time to come and share their knowledge and experience, and it also reminds us that the comments that they make are founded and sourced from a level of experience and diversity that brings a lot of value to both us in the room and to the entrant. It does take a bit of time, but I think it's always worth it. My name's Tony Hewitt. I've done a little bit of photography in this area of landscape, and I've done a little bit of work sitting up the front of a panel and judging in this country and a few others. All right, I think we're ready to go. What do you think, Lauren?
I think so.
Okay, Belinda, we're good to go? All right, let's have the first image, please. Judges. Oh, we're going to do a run-through. We are going to do a run-through. Of course we are. I knew that. Let's do the run-through. I was just checking. So this is a chance for everybody at home to see what the judges are going to be looking at. This is a reminder, these are the top 35 images in the category. There has been a judging process already where everybody who entered this digital component, landscape, would have had a chance to make the top 35. So congratulations if your image shows up in the next 2.5 minutes because you've made it to the finals or to the semi-finals or whatever you'd like to say. Wow. Glad I'm not on the panel. Okay, our judges are ready to go. Let's get our little group here. Okay, you guys are good to go? Everyone at home ready, settled in? Turn the footy off, time to look at your photos. Let's have the first image, please. And away we go. Okay, we have a score of 84, a good solid silver. Well done. Mika can challenge at 89. Thanks, Mika. So succinct comments, let's get to the point. If it's already been said, please say I agree with that and I can only add this or pass on. Away we go.
The impact of this image is absolutely striking. It is so impactful, it's so bold, it's so graphic, but at the same time there's a element of writing and there's almost a musicality to it. This is a photograph of nature. If you get up close, you're thoroughly rewarded seeing all the tiny little bubbles within those white areas. I couldn't see any area that was blown out, and that's really challenging in an environment like this. There were some areas where you could actually tell what was underneath the surface of the water, so that the closer viewing rewards you with the detail that gives away what we've actually what we're seeing here. But I think this is masterful photography, and I'd really like to hear what you guys are concerned about.
Alan, 75.
So I agree. I appreciate all the things that you have said. It's been very well photographed and well seen. I just feel like when we go up into that sort of top right-hand corner, how it just can get close together and things like that. I feel like it's a really great abstract landscape, but that corner there, the fact that it's getting closer together, just takes me out of that abstraction and makes me, oh, I can see where the depth is. And so I still put this in that sort of high category. I just feel like I'd love to see it just crop down a little bit from the top, and that will definitely bring me into more of that abstract, also almost microbe kind of looking, which I love.
Paul Dodd.
Paul on.
Paul Dodd,
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to hear why you gave it what you did. So you're in the middle.
So I was smack bang in the middle. For me, this is a wonderful abstract picture, and disagreeing with Alan here, the fact that it does taper off into that top corner is the thing that brings it back to being a landscape for me. So I think it does work in that degree. The reason I stayed in the middle and wasn't going higher was because of its abstractness rather than something I could really get really understand. But that's just me, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Let's come back to you, Mika.
Thank you for that. Alan, I hear what you're saying, but I have to agree with Paul on this one. For me, it's the depth that's created by that congregation of bubbles up in the top right-hand corner. It gives it actually a bit more movement, it gives it dynamism, and I think that that's actually a really important part of this image, the gathering and the movement. And I just think it's incredibly bold and unique. I've not seen a photograph like this, and I think in landscape that's really challenging. So please score, and if you can find a few more points, I think the photographer would be very happy.
Thank you, Mika. You hold your score. Everybody else can rescore, taking on board what they've heard. This image scores 86, solid silver, well done. Next image, please. Image scores 86, and everybody's very close, in and around the mid to high 80s. How about a quick comment from Paul Holland, please?
It's a very intricate scene, this, and if you can't see from the back, there's a lot of beautiful detail and narrative, even on the right here with machinery and pathways around the hill and up from the water. And I love the fact that we have this water base too, so we're given a pathway in from a different position, and the reality of living and engaging with this place is kind of part of that conversation. Tonally, it's very simple, but it's very elegant. It's light where it needs to be light. I feel focused in on the center of the frame. I'm not sure if I would give it a little bit more breathing room on the top left or allow it a little bit more space for it atmospherically, but I'm on 84, a really enjoyable image.
Okay, thank you. Next image, please. Hey, it's a gold award, 90. Yep, you can challenge on 93, Paul. Okay, so you've got 4 people in the low, or 2 in the low golds and 2 in the mid silvers.
Yeah, at a different position where every point wasn't necessarily relevant, kind of like last year I wouldn't have challenged, but in this case it could be the very thing that brings it up there. So I appreciate that we're all already there. I think it's quite a privilege to be able to spend a little bit more time with this and go a little bit deeper, a little bit further. I mean, initially it's almost like interplanetary, you know, I feel like I'm on the surface of another planet, I'm in an alien landscape, and at the same time I've been given this beautifully elliptical and piercing shadow of a shape to just lean into that is so magnificently managed. Every sort of pixel in every corner is a gorgeous amount of detail and texture to be present with. It has a beautiful depth. It has a very unusual kind of pull in the back of frame with this warm tone. And of course, this gorgeous sort of delicate reward and the energetics of something that speaks to something like Tesla might create, the kind of shapes and structures of what's in the foreground and what the energy that's producing in the background. So there's a conversation about energy in general. I'm going to shush now and see what else we have to say here.
You're in 85.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I feel like my score might not quite have adjusted, and now I'm looking at it more. I feel like I'd say the messy composition actually works for this, because it is actually going, oh, look over there. Oh, we're going to point up there. It's like, oh, we're going to go back to the orange. Oh, look at that pointy thing down there. So it is actually circulating me around the image, which is a new word. Feel free to use it. So yeah, I definitely will be trusting.
Hold on. Can I go to Paul Dodd, please? 92.
I agree entirely with Paul Holland on this. The outwardly nature of this is what attracted me to it in the first place. And then when you look at this image gives so much. So you've got the conical hill in the front. I don't know whether that's man-made or natural or whatever it is, with that incredible shadow. But then that leads you to the lightning in the background. Looking around the background, then you've got the sun set or sunrise, and then there's lines leading you that way. And it's to reiterate on what Alan was saying, you just get led around and discover something new every time. And then there's the tonality of the image. It just works. The golds and the browns to the blues at the top. It works.
Okay, Mika. Mika's also mid-silver.
Yes, I scored this 85. 6. I really appreciated everything that you have to say, but I would like to point out there's a great big possible dust spot, top left, that is rather obvious, and that's what's held me back.
Okay. Paul.
One of your fantastical gifts, Mika, I've learnt many times, is you see things that people like myself don't see, and now I can't not see it, to be fair. I think I had a conversation with Bill Backman before, and one of the things he said to me is, don't get too caught up in the detail and acknowledge and disacknowledge is it affecting their level of communication in a way, like, and to me that's not. I didn't really notice it at all, and I spent a lot of time with it. I think it's a very unusual composition. It's a very unusual structure, and I think it speaks to the unusual energetics of that Tesla coil alien kind of combination of features. And we moved around by the dynamics of lightning, the edges of colour, the conical and elliptical shapes moving around, and it's not necessarily an easy journey, but it's cohesive enough to hold us there and move us into a kind of a superior level of communication on levels that sometimes beyond the literal here as well, and a little bit symbolic. We've said what needs to be said. Let's honour this, what we feel like it deserves.
I was going to comment too that this is a rare landscape in that it shows air, fire, water and earth using various elementals, and it's done with very simple shapes and a composition that leads you from each of those elements and back to where you started. So that's not necessarily going to lift it or lower it. It's just an observation to take into account. So you've had your chance. Paul, your score sits. Everybody else can rescore. Take into account all the comments you heard and observed. We have a 92 Gold Award. And that's why we have 5 judges, because someone will see something others missed, which is really important to get that collaborative Collaborative score, and as I said earlier today, it's not a combative process, it's a collaborative process. Well done, judges. Next image, please. Oh, before we do that, can I have a judge change? That's right, sorry. And it was just one. So yeah, I was going to change 2 judges out. So Mika and Paul, and Nathan and Kelly. Could you come on, please? Yep, yep. And when they've sat down, we'll have the next image, please. Thank you. Image scores 83, silver award. Everybody very close. Joe, can I have a quick comment from you, please?
Thank you. I commend the photographer on this. The amount of detail that you're showing through all of those beautiful shapes is really quite spectacular. I think there's so much going on in there that I'm not quite sure where I can stop looking and just sit and rest and enjoy the image. So that's it. That's what stopped me from going a little bit higher. Concentrating in on a smaller section of that beautiful landscape may give the eye a little bit more time to rest and just be a bit still. Well done, though.
Thanks, Joe. Next image, please. And just a reminder that if you haven't voted on the Steve Scalone Award, please do so. On your tag that should be around your neck, which I haven't got on, we'll have a little voting slip, and the Steve Scalone Architectural Award, the images are there. Please go and make a vote on the one that you think deserves to win. That closes in about 45 minutes. Image scores 77. All happy with that? Yeah, sure. You can make a comment. Thanks, Paul. So it's a highly commended. Well done.
Beautiful level of detail here on Christmas, excellent choice of lighting in terms of the time of day to approach it. Where I feel like the strength of this image lies in this beautiful poetic sweep and the leaf just sort of being held gently there in the space, and perhaps consider a square crop in the middle to really simplify and strengthen the graphical elements and just bring us in closer to that delicacy of narrative.
Yeah, good comments. Appreciate that. Next image, please. This image scores 83, silver award. With a challenge from Alan on 88, you have an 87, an 83, an 81, a 77, Alan.
I reckon we give this a few extra points. I was on 88, so I was up there high. I want to go gold with this, but our foreground, I think, takes us away. Those reflections are great, But if we remove them, it then turns into an abstract where it could be trees. It's amazing, that top half. So that's why I didn't go into gold. But apart from that, I still think it has been crafted with your composition, with the little iceberg floating down there, anchoring us into the bottom right-hand corner, the flow that comes through the image. I still think we should be going for a bit of a higher silver.
Okay, Nathan, 77.
Yeah, I put it in highly commended for all the reasons that you've got it in highly silver. The photographer's done everything right for the technicals, but I've got at least 4 different pieces, 4 different quality stories going on, but they don't all go together. We need to pick one. We've got the top piece, the flow of spikes to the horizon like trees. We've got the center line of a reflection, or we've got the reflection story, or we've got a chunk of ice on the left, which is really good in its own right, or the central column, which could be a tunnel. A lot of pieces, but all together, I'm lost. And so that my resolution isn't there, and it's only because there's so many good stories, but I don't think that should be awarded because the photographer could pick one and then elevate it. But I'm listening because I'm the lowest.
Sure. Joe, you're on 87.
Yep. I agree with Nathan as far as, and with Alan as well, cropping in a little bit closer to give you, it would give you a slightly stronger narrative, but I think I rewarded this for impact, the treatment, the keeping the details in those highlights and celebrating all the beautiful texture and shape in there is wonderful. And I just, look, the colour palette's gorgeous. It's got a real feel to it, and it really gives you a sense of where you are and what you're doing. So having all those different narratives doesn't take me away from feeling that this is a really very, very strong silver award, and I would like to see others come up.
Okay, Alan, back to you.
Yeah, so sometimes with landscapes we can try to be a little bit too fancy, whereas this is showing us kind of the scene. It's showing us exactly what's there. It's showing us what we need to see to kind of go, wow, this is an amazing place. And so through that, it has that realism with the elements of nature in different places that, you know, we should celebrate nature as it is. It doesn't have to be the perfect way that we expect it to be, or how we expect it to be in what we consider an amazingly composites. I've run out of words. Yeah, so I feel like the realism that we get from this as well, like we've all admitted that there's bits that can be done for better, and yeah, let's go higher.
An authentic depiction of nature.
Yes, that's a good word.
Okay, you hold your score at 88. Everyone else can rescore. Thank you. And image scores 85. Good solid silver, well done. Next image, please. Image scores 81, silver award. Challenge from Paul on 88, scores range 76, 77 and 282s.
Yeah, I feel like there's a really quiet, understated strength and magnificence to this image. When you wait, a good while long after into the blue hour, the light shifts into a form that has a capacity to really wrap around and massage and gently push into areas where it often doesn't get to with the more direct sort of light. And I feel like that choice of timing here is magnificent. You know, the strength of how well they've used that opposition of the colour wheel to bring those warm tones forwards and add spatial sort of cognitive depth with the blues is beautifully, beautifully done. And being a little bit lower to give that grandeur and that strength and that height and that allowance to give them the space to be seen and to be celebrated by that positioning is really beautifully done. The detail is exquisite all the way through the image. I feel like it needs to be in high silver.
Okay, let's hear from Alan on 77.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying there. I just feel like we need something a little bit more to help us kind of see this. This is a great shot of the landscape. This is what I would expect someone really to be able to do. I feel like potentially that foreground is distracting a little bit in terms of taking us away from what we're seeing. Admittedly, the highlights are in the right spot, and that is a bit darker, but I feel like if it was just cropped a little bit more, it would take us further through the image. I don't know if that was quite needed there. So,
Nathan, you're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm really happy to go up. I started in a strong silver because I haven't been out here and shot this kind of thing that much. I just recognised that it was flawless, and I thought, like Alan, this is what landscape photographers do. They get out there and they take a great shot. But what I felt was movement of the dunes over a long time flowing through, because I felt a movement on this circle. I think that's why the foreground is here, or at least it's contributing to the image as the, a bazillion years of erosion is dropping these peaks down, exposing them more. And when we're getting close, there's no movement, it's solid. But we know that there's this journey of a millennia or two, and I can feel it. I can feel this length of journey of these lonely pieces, and I feel like that holds pretty strong. It's ethereal, but it matched the quality of the image, so I like this.
Okay, back to you, Paul. Oh, Joe. Yeah, okay. If you've got something to add.
I've just got a question. I'm on 82. I think it's a silver award. I'm just a bit. If somebody could talk to me as to, or if Paul can address in his review, there seems to be some overflow of the colour on the top right stack flowing into the blue of the sky, and I'm just a bit confused how that colour has gotten outside of the stone. If you can talk to that, I'd be willing to, yeah. It's like a little bit of ghosting in colour that I'm seeing. But
Yeah, so I can't see that actually. I think Nathan hit something a little bit special. So the reason why, Alan, I think the foreground is particularly important, these structures are very, very delicate. They're very, very lightly shaped. And if you brush your fingers on, they'll literally crumble away in your hands. And that conversation and that narrative about what these structures are actually made of and how fluid they are and how easily they transform from that solid into that structure down the bottom is present to us. Like that element in the bottom is what's physically shaped into what you see above and vice versa. So the dynamism of that conversation of the evolution of a landscape is present here in the conversation, which is why I think it's important. I think it's a quietly understated, beautifully magnificent image, and I appreciate that we spent a bit of time with it. I'd love for us to go a bit higher.
Okay, you hold your score, Paul. Is that all the scores in? Yep. 84. Well done. Silver award. Next image, please. We'll keep moving, guys. That's all right. No, that's a good question. Well picked up. Thank you, judges. This image scores 83, silver award. Congratulations. Everybody pretty close to that. I think I've described this image as an authenticity of experience. It really does make you feel like you're there. You can feel the cold and you can feel the what's the word I'm looking for? Almost a biblical awesomeness in the way that that mountain is set like that. I'd like to see maybe the mountain a little more central myself, because it just feels a little bit extra on the left. So, next image, please. This image scores 82, silver award. Challenge from Paul on 87. You've got another 87 and an 83 and 2 high 70s. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation to spend a bit of time here. I think all of us are moving around with our hands in all sorts of different directions in terms of images within images within images, and it really is one of those pieces that you can move in lots of different directions from a cropping point of view and emphasise different features. But we're given quite a bit of breadth here. We're given a lot of latitude to move along these diagonal lines, to drift around the curves, to move back into the frame. And it's a little bit bolder, I think, to include more. It's not as incisive, and it adds a bit of breathing room and space to me to meander around and wander. I think the mid-tone contrast has been handled as good as it possibly could, and as a huge feature and sense of mastery of what's coming through from here from the image maker. And the tonality is done in a way where it's offered us a really beautiful, strong, bold impression, but it's not overdone. It's just held back in an elegant way, and that it's allowed to sit very, very comfortably and easily to allow us to wander around and accentuate that spatial depth through the cool tones at the back and the warmer tones forward. It's let's have a better chat about it. I'm on, what am I on, Tony? 87.
Okay, Alan, 77.
I found this, again, a really, as everything that Paul has said is exactly what I feel. I feel like potentially, as we get further into that, into the distance, like that softness, I want this to be more crispness. I kind of feel like the further we go back, we're losing that sort of definition. The flow is great. Again, I feel like there is something here that could be improved with this composition, and there's lots of ways it could be done. I'm not sure if this is the prime composition for this image, and I feel like at the moment it's more of an almost a very well done exercise in composition and placement, but I feel like we could do better.
Okay, Kelly, you're on 87.
Yes, I'm well in support, and I'm actually going to go up a little bit higher. I just wanted to add a little bit of the narrative of this, because obviously that's where I sort of come from. Conceptually, this is actually very, very strong, including all of the things that Paul's mentioned. There's a sense of solid, loneliness, survival. There's this one piece of vegetation. There's not one single other piece of other vegetation throughout that entire image. And there's so much depth within there. It's perfectly placed. There's so much solitude. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I'm losing my words at the end of the day. Solitude and survival. And that's what I get from this. There's so much narrative behind it, as well as all the things that Paul's mentioned. We could potentially push it into gold, but we're really only asking for a silver, high silver. So come on up, guys.
Okay, Nathan, something to add?
Just a question to resolve, Paul, because it's strong silver for me, but I'm falling out of the bottom every single time. The journey is everywhere everyone said, except this bright streak is just, foof, I'm out every time. And pulling that back, and I'm resting in there forever in a gold. So my question to you, and we'll all decide it together, I guess, is, you know, how far up the silver range do we go? Does the fallout matter? Talk to me about that.
Two elements to that, Nathan. Number one, make sure you're looking at the direction sign because it's pointing up and that beautiful piece of vegetation and telling you where to go. Secondly, that's one of the reasons to come back down and circulate around the frame. Because once I get to the top, I come back around again to the bottom and then I cycle forward up again. And it's part of, to me, it's visual strength and that invitation and that boldness to be so inclusive of such a wide breadth of tonality is it opens up that room to move around continuously. And I really want to thank you for that narrative. It was there, present with me, understated. And the other thing, compositionally, I think, Alan, it's a little bit of choose your own adventure. And that which composition do you want to reframe in your own mind and be present with? And you can do 2, 3, 4, 5 different versions. And not in a way that it's confusing, in a way that you're given choice and autonomy. And that's the way I choose to view this image and why I think it should be a high silver.
Okay, you hold your score, Paul. Everyone else can rescore. Image scores 85, silver award. Well done. We'll have a judge change. Alan, you can take a break. Joe, you can take a break. Paul Holland, you can take a break. Have Paul Dodd back. Mika rejoin us. And Harriet Tarbuck. Thank you, Harriet. Do you want some more done? Okay, grab a seat. Next image, please. Let's keep it moving. That's good. Thank you, judges. Image scores 88, very high silver, with a challenge from Nathan on 92. You have a 92 with you, an 81, 87, 88.
Great. This shouldn't be too difficult. This is one of those excellent images that is both story and beauty, because they don't have to go together. You know, like when something's beautiful, it's beautiful. It all works. The composition works, the leading lines work, the colour palette works. We can tick off all those boxes. The technical kind of craft of it all is just, it's wonderful. Nailed it. Of all the options of composition and cropping in, this photographer has picked the exact thing that takes us from the top left, swings down in like a musical note across to the bottom, strikes across. We've got a hero, and the hero is the smallest leafy creature in the middle, even in the immensity of the sand dune. So all of that works. And the colour-wise, the splashes of gold down to the pure blue talks to us about the conflict of nature and all of those things. I don't need to pitch it too hard. I'd rather hear what kept us from gold, and then I will talk more.
Mika, 81.
Thanks, Nathan. For a very well photographed location, I'm looking for something that's different and unique, and I'm unfortunately not seeing that here, but it is a excellently photographed scene. I am a little distracted by the yellow vegetation on the left-hand side. That takes me away from that beautiful nature story in this. I'm really enjoying the movement of the curve of the dune. But yeah, I'm just looking for that little bit more. But I'm on 81, so I can certainly find a few points.
All right, let's listen to Paul Dodd on 92.
So I'm on 92 as well, and with Nathan, what immediately grabbed my eye was that curve coming from the absolute top left corner, precisely through down to the plains at the bottom where the tree is. It just draws my eye into the picture. Now I'm also with Mika on the yellow stuff on the side of the dune, and that actually stopped me going higher. If that wasn't there, I think I would have gone into a high gold. The colour palette is perfect. The lighting is just superb. It's just one of those images that works. Now I don't know where this is, and so it's not something I'm familiar with in terms of having overseen it. So to me, it's a unique picture.
Okay. I might have a comment, if I can, from either Kelly or Harriet. Thanks, Harriet.
Yeah, I'm a high silver on this, so I'm happy to be encouraged to go into gold. I don't mind a bit of vegetation. I feel like I like environments to be photographed as they are, and there's a little bit of life trying to grow on this beautiful sand dune, and that's fine by me. I love the little wisps of sand that you can really see in that detail. They're being blown off the curve, and I mean everyone else has talked about the beautiful graphic nature of it, that highlight on the dune, the folds. I'm being encouraged to come up.
Okay, back to you, Nathan.
Yeah, great. Thank you for those perspectives. This could be a well photographed spot, and if it is that, then you probably wouldn't have the little vegetation, and so it might be a little bit more unique because of that little creature there, scrambling up the dark side of the mountain there. What strikes me is this sense of narrative transportation, that I'm in there on that side of the hill, that this isn't such a devastating conflict of good versus evil as much as a fun experience of nature. Like, I'm journeying around this from the top down to the bottom. I'd slide down those hills. I'd sit in under that tree. There's a lot that holds me there, with the imperfection, which isn't an imperfection on the left, and topped off by, squint from the back of the room and you'll still really experience the golden light down to the bright blues. You weave the way through this a lot, and I really think this should sit really, really strongly in a gold space.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. You hold your score. Everybody rescore, please. Image scores 91, gold. Next image, please. We'll keep things moving, judges, if we can. Thank you, judges. Image scores 82, silver award. We're all happy with that? Okay, let's have a quick comment, if we can, from Nathan as to what could be done to lift this image.
Yeah, look, magnificent setup, great control of tones all the way through. Probably doesn't need so much foreground. The slide from left down to the centre and back up to the right, that's almost enough. The reflection's good, but the cup is really powerful. So that's it.
Thank you. Next image, please. Image scores 81, silver award. Okay, we have a challenge there, enthusiastically from Paul. 89, you've got an 82 and 82 and a low to mid-70s.
Oh, okay, cool. So look, I think there's a lot to be said for this this image, the tonal range in particular, but the sun on one side of it, and it just really shaping this into such a dramatic scene. You can either head off up the canyon or come down the canyon into the picture. Either way works. The one thing that stopped me though was I think I'm just missing the top of the image. I know it has to be cut somewhere because it's not an ongoing, because the ridge goes on. But I think it could have just had a little bit more, and that would have had me more invested in it. But I think just a lovely image.
Thanks, Paul. Harriet, you're on 75.
Yeah, it's probably at the other end a little bit. I actually was really excited about seeing this image up close. I think the photographer's trying to do something a bit different with the landscape image, which I really love. Those highlights are really stunning. I agree the top of the frame is a bit awkward. It's sort of jarring me a little bit. I feel like it's not quite, I need a bit more room up there. Also, I would have liked maybe those shadows to fall a bit deeper. So you really had that contrast between those beautiful highlights and deep shadows. But I like the direction the photographer's going, and there's some really nice elements about this.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, back to you, Paul.
Yeah, look, so the point taken about the shadows, but I don't think you wouldn't want them too much deeper because you still need to see that detail. I think that adds to the story. So, I think I'm pretty happy with it as the way it is in terms of shadow.
Okay, you hold your score. Everybody else take on board what they've heard and can then score.
Oh, I think I just rescored without meaning to. Thank you.
Pin scores 83, silver award. Next image, please. This image scored 74. Sorry? 74, roll up a little bit further, at 75 by majority. It's interesting. Okay, can I have a comment, please, from Paul? What could be done to improve this?
Okay, so I get where the photographer's trying to go with this, but I think it all looks a little bit artificial. And secondly, I get the cyan and the reddish lighting to try and give it that cinematic appeal, but the photographer's got it the wrong way round. So normally you'd have the cyan into the shadow and the oranges and into the highlights, and it's kind of the opposite. It just it sort of plays with my mind a little bit too much.
Okay, so some things to work on. Yeah, thank you. Next image, please. This image scores 79. Everybody within a point of that, so you're all pretty consistent. Let's have a comment, please, from... No, I'm going to actually challenge that. Let's have yeah, you're all within a point of yeah. So I think a discussion, and we'll see where it ends up. So everyone can speak if they wish to. Yeah, I think there's a few extra things going on in that image that are worth taking a second look at for everybody. So Paul, you can start. You're all within a point of each other, so you don't have to speak if you've got nothing to add. You won't get a chance to speak again. You'll only speak once, and then you can all rescore. Yep. Okay, so what's held me back with this image is it's clearly done in multiple parts, with the foreground, the rocks and so on photographed by the looks of things in pretty strong sunlight. It doesn't look like moonlight to me. And if the moon was that bright to cast such deep shadows, then we wouldn't be able to see either the stars or the aurora. So it kind of looks, to me, it just looks like it's a bit of a composite, but done not quite so well, if you know what I mean. The aurora is lovely, and the sky is lovely, but perhaps a bit bright as well for the scene. Okay, Kelly.
Speaking of multiplicity, I feel there's 3 or 4 different images within this image that cropped could be used as single images themselves. For me, they're currently, each element is overpowering and trying to sort of fight for the attention over another element, and so my eye isn't being directed specifically to one, and I'm finding myself conflicted as to which element, but there's some incredible elements within there that could ultimately be several different images cropped 4 different ways.
Okay, Mika.
I think what I'm missing is the sense of night, and I think that's got to do with the deepness of the darks, and I recognise that this is a scene where the blacks go black pretty quickly at night, and I think the photographer has really tried to address that, but as a consequence, I feel like it doesn't feel like nighttime to me, and that aurora is fantastic, but you can't reward the effort that it took to be there in that incredible location while the aurora's going off. We're awarding the artistry of the photographer in this capture. So for me, I'd like to see it a bit more night-like.
Anybody have anything to add?
I'll just talk very quickly to that. I sort of think that the photographer is doing something a bit different, and we see the aurora at night a lot, but I get the sense of night here. I feel like it's got that moonlit glow. The stars are there. The aurora is gentle and soft. The colours are pastel-y almost. I feel that there's a lot of auroras that are punch in your face, and I think the control that the photographer's had of this, I had it as a low silver. I think it deserves that place, and have another look at it.
Okay. Nothing to add, anybody else? Okay, let's all have a look at that, think about it, and you can go where you will with it. Free to rescore. And we end up with a 79, so there you go. That was good to listen to. Next image, please. Image scores 81, silver award, well done. Quick comment from Mika.
I couldn't help smiling, and I think we've all got smiles on our faces, so thank you to the photographer for bringing that to us. And the control of the whites, I think, is really quite superb. Like, you've really managed those very, very subtle graduations of light very, very well. In order to improve the image, it's a bit tricky, but perhaps I understand that a square crop can be really pleasing, but I do feel like the square crop is a little contrived and perhaps a little less on the top and a little bit more on the right. Something like that might have made it a stronger image.
Thank you, Mika. And with that, you can take a break, as can Kelly. And if I can invite Alan and Joe back, please. And we'll have the next image, please. Keeping it moving. This is the digital professional category of landscape, sponsored by our very good friends at Godox. Image scores 84, silver award. Harriet, quick comment if you will, please.
This is a solid silver. There's some beautiful gradient in the sky in the background, from those stormy clouds to that beautiful highlight that runs through the middle. The highlights on the icebergs have been held really well, and that bird is perfectly positioned. They came into model right at the right time, so well done.
Yeah, it adds a lovely element of context, doesn't it, to what you're looking at.
Absolutely.
Next image, please. This image scores 81, silver award. Challenge from Paul on 88. There's a 75 and a 77 and a couple of low 80s.
So there's a lot that works about this image. The grayscale, the tonality is great. There's a bit of a story with those trees, and then into some fencing along the horizon, which is just barely visible. But the absolute killer, of course, is those lenticular clouds. I mean, just to see that and to have that, to have them positioned in that way, just adds such power to the image, draws you right into it.
Let's have a comment from Nathan on 75. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, everything on that bottom there is wonderful. I'd love for those little trees, even the fence line, to be the hero of the shot, but this composition tells me the cloud is the hero. And so I go to it and there's no detail. It's I'd love to see the texture, the rich texture that I'm seeing down the base in that cloud. And because there's nothing, I don't have a hero, so I'm a little bit lost. So I'd rather it be cropped in, but I will listen.
Joe, you're on 83. You saw a silver here.
I agree with all that's been said. I think those trees are wonderful. All that contrast and the treatment of the foreground or the ground at the bottom of the frame is wonderful. The way the trees are petering off from sort of larger to smaller matches those clouds, but I want to see that left-hand side of the cloud. I want that frame to move over to show me where that cloud ends and where those trees are pointing to, and also with a bit more selective dodging and burning to bring out some more drama in those clouds to match the tone in the sky to the tone in the ground would just make me go up there with you.
We'll go back to you, Paul, unless someone has something to add. Okay, back to you, Paul.
Yeah, look, I get it, but this isn't a storm cloud. It's kind of a different sort of cloud and doesn't necessarily need that really deep drama. I think it's the story is in the shape of the clouds and the way that they're kind of hovering over the trees.
Okay, you're going to hold your score there, please, at 88, and everyone else will rescore. Thank you. Yeah, we had a little bit of movement, I think. We'll know soon. Image scores 82. Well done. Silver award. Next image, please. Image scores 77. Nathan challenging on 84. You have a 70 and 3 people in the high 70s.
Okay, this is ambitious, and I knew it would be. I gave it 84 to sit firmly in silver to probably have this conversation. Look, it's landscape, and it's the most minimal landscape we could possibly do, provided this is absolutely deliberate and not a horrible mistake by a photographer suddenly sliding up exposure to ballistic levels. We've got the slight hint of a line, the slight hint of landscape left, and everything else is a human story. We could read deep and go, oh, look, it's the end of nature and nothing left but humans. But I think what our photographer is leading us through is a human journey. And each of these humans is actually valid. There's a group, there's a person facing back towards the group on their own with maybe a tiny little bit of colour, And then there's individuals. There's somebody exhausted, leaning over on their knees. There's one other person calling back, saying, come on, people. And finally up ahead, 2 people together in some kind of tiny little connection. That's all I've got. This could not be enough, and I'm listening, but it has to be talked about because this is too ambitious to slide through.
Harriet on 70.
I completely hear you. I do. And I was rooting for this one. I just don't see enough detail. I love the concept. I love the idea. I love the story. That line, when you're up close, it's non-existent. When you're back here, I can see it just. It's just, there's just not enough detail in that snow, and I love highlights. I love everything being really bright. I think it's really great and brave, but there's just not enough detail there. But I gave it a commended because I'm commending the photographer, but yeah, just pull back those highlights a tiny bit.
Anybody have anything to add? Alan?
I'm again, same as everybody else. My thing with this, the line is great there with the people up, but then as soon as you drop off to the side, it's like it's forgotten about. So it just disappears, and we lose contrast in those rocks on the left-hand side as well. So for me, I want that kind of to tie in. It just seems like that's just been kind of left to its own devices to make us look at to the people, but it just doesn't quite. I want to see that continuation.
Okay. You hold your score, Nathan, unless you want to say something first.
Yeah, I need to wrap up that as a team we award the ambition, also the technical prowess for the photographer. This is really good to know that the powerful idea does need to be communicated through whatever medium it lands on. And if it's just that subtle tweak of a tiny bit more landscape, that's needed. If it's a print, you'll know it on a screen. You're right on that edge of ambition, and it's up to us to work out whether it's a silver or not.
Yeah, I'm just going to add the comment that sometimes a good landscape image is about sharing the experience of being in a type of landscape. So that, for what that's worth. Anyway, you hold your score, Nathan, and the rest of you can take on board what you've heard and add that, work out where you want to go. And we end up with a score of, drum roll, 79. Highly commended. And like Nathan, I'd like to applaud the photographer for their bravery in putting something, quite a strong abstraction of a landscape, but certainly sells the experience. Well done. Next image, please. Image score is 84. Alan's hand went up first. I had 2 of you on 92, but you got the challenge in, Alan. Okay, so you will go first. We have a 79, a 75 and an 84, so you're all over the shop here. Let's see where our collaborative approach comes to.
So this is pretty sweet, and that's a pun because this is Sugarloaf Rock. So this is a very iconic location in Western Australia. Sugarloaf Rock, it's photographed, it's one of those spots it's great, it's easy to get to, you can take a great photo of it. But this is a very unique photo that has that mysticism of the universe, and it makes us feel sort of small with adding that universe in and then having all of that. They're really well handled exposure, not just in the sky, but also in the foreground, especially in that water, not letting it blow out to be just fully milky. There's great texture through there and also through the shadows as well. So centering us right in the middle, it's just beautiful. It's such a great composition, so I'd love to see it come up.
Okay, let's hear from Harriet on 75.
So it's a very recognisable photograph of a starry sky, a landscape. It's very classic, I guess. So I guess I want to see something a little bit more exciting, maybe. It has been well exposed. There seems to be quite a hard vignette that is going on around. And I'm wondering if there's been a bit of dodging, over dodging on the rocks. However, I think the clouds behind the rock and the water have been held really well. I am learning from the landscape experts on the panel here, and I want to be pushed up. So please, I'd love to hear some more.
Well, let's hear from Jo. She's also a 92.
I awarded this image because, I mean, when it turns around, you go, wow, you want to get up and you want to have a great big look at that. The stars are pin sharp, the Milky Way is perfectly placed. I mean, there was planning that went into capturing this image, as well as a bit of luck of there not being clouds, you know. Well, we're in Melbourne, but maybe Western Australia's a little bit nicer. They've got clouds that play nicely. I look at the browns, the tonality in those rocks, they're delicious. I really like it. I don't think that they're over-dodged, and I like the fact that you've got that vignette draws you right into the hero, which is that beautiful formation of rocks that I don't know the name of. And I agree with Alan with keeping that tone in the water is great. And I would have gone higher if it hadn't been for that little bit of green on the right-hand side down the bottom, which just, I want to think it's algae. I'm not 100% sure, but I would have gone higher if that was maybe matching the colour of the rocks on the left as well. But I think this image should be rewarded. It is stellar.
Okay, do you two want?
Yeah. So I think the capture of the image is technically perfect. The stars, as whoever said, are absolutely pin sharp, no problems. The foreground's great, correct exposure for the foreground. However, a couple of technical issues are what really kept me down in terms of the post-processing. First of all, you've got a magenta cast to the Milky Way, and you know you want a little bit of magenta because you want to try and bring out some of the nebula, but that's just a little bit too much. And secondly, if you look around the Sugarloaf rock itself, there's a halo. So there's a distinct white line right around the rock, which kind of detracts from me. Everything else, the earth glow, the green earth glow is wonderful, but the magenta cast and the halo is what kills it for me a little bit.
Nathan, did you have anything to add?
Only since Alan gets a right to reply, he could help us resolve it. I'm seeing 3 black spots in what is a very well exposed set of shadows everywhere else. Like the top of Sugarloaf is poof, gone, and then there's little black bits. Now, is that a shadow? Help me out. Otherwise, do we award the photographer with a very high score, or do we award the photographer with encouragement and really good critique? Because we really want them to, you know, smash this out of the park for the rest of their career. And as a team, I'm sure we'll land on it. But if you could resolve these little dark spots for me, that would help me get up there.
Alan?
So we do have that light, that darker, that spot there, but it also does correspond with just to the left of it. So there is definitely a bigger shadow happening over the top of the rock and onto those rocks to the left. So that is definitely, I'd say, there kind of as was kind of being photographed and not a technical kind of side of things. Whereas that little line around it, yeah, that bums me out now. But still, I think we are sitting in a really good silver spot, but I think we can bring this up. So colour cast wise and things like that, I think that doesn't affect the image too much. I actually think it makes it have that more ethereal, magical kind of look. So yeah, I'd love to see it come up. If you can't come up into wherever I put it, just come up into that high silvers.
I'll just add a little bit to it. I mean, there's a lot I could comment on, but I will comment on the green. Having slipped on those rocks, it's algae. Okay.
You can show us the scars.
You hold your score, Alan.
Sorry?
You hold your score. Everyone else can rescore. And we have a 86. Thank you. Next image, please. Image score is 77. Joe, you can challenge, yes. You're on 85, 82, 71, 75, 72.
Sorry, say those again.
71, 72, 75 and 82. Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, let's talk about. I'm in the middle of the silver range. I look. This turned around and it goes pop. I sat back, and while you were up inspecting it, I was just enjoying the frame within a frame, leading us down to this beautifully placed tree. And I mean, the way the graduation in the sky is handled is fabulous. I wish there was a little bit more detail in that water that the tree is sitting on, but I just think this is a beautiful image, and I'd really like to see it get up a little bit higher than, you know, low 70s. It's beautiful. Just appreciate it for the magical scene that it is.
Harriet, 71.
Definitely an image that pops. Those colours in the background, you know, the gradient, it starts off very beautifully and subtle. As we get down to the water, it's a little bit punchy. There's quite a bit of colour in there. The water there's not much detail in the water. It feels blown out. And that's my big kind of point, I guess. You know, commend the photographer for an interesting frame and definitely trying to do something different.
Okay, Paul, 82.
So look, I'm between you both. I love the frame within the frame. That's obviously a compositional technique that always works. But when you have frame within a frame, you do it for a reason. That's to highlight the subject. And when you lose detail in the subject, it's kind of a bit pointless, really. So we've got a lovely frame, but we've lost the detail in that water and the tree itself. So that's what kept me down. I'm in low silver. I'm happy to stay there. It might come up a little bit, but I don't think it's a mid to high silver for me.
Go back to you, Joe.
Well, I see detail in the water. Is it a little bit hot? Could it be brought down? Yes, it could be, but there is still detail in every bit of that surface of the water. I'm not seeing lots of detail in that tree. I think the way that tree and the water is cupped in that frame is just, it's really inspired, and I think that it deserves to be awarded. So I implore you
Okay, Joe,
to have a thinking. Come on up.
You'll hold your score at 85. Everybody else rescore, please. This image scores 79 by majority. Just going to take a moment. We have a blank screen.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can have what you're going to say and try and be more succinct. Sometimes if someone's already given us that, you don't have to describe it. And a couple of times we've said the same thing in a slightly different way. Just say, I recall what Paul said, 100%, and I'd like to add this, move on. Otherwise you'll find you're going to have to rush at the end, and I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. Otherwise everything's good. Okay, next image please. That's okay. We have a score of an average of 86, but we have a gold by majority at 90. thought that might surprise you. Okay. I'm going to allow a challenge from Paul, because he was a 92, and because of the depth of scoring, I would like the discussion to allow people who didn't give us gold to understand why, and those that did give a gold to listen to that 76 as to why that person chose not to give a gold, okay? No, in all seriousness, there's a relevance from both ends, and we need to hear each other's so we can end up as a group with the right end point. Paul, why did you give it 92?
Okay, so this truly is minimalism at its best, I think. You've got such an ethereal image, the clouds, almost indistinguishable from the landscape, but those two shadowy figures heading who knows which way, but dead centre in the image. The colour palette is sublime. There's no blown highlights. The tonal range is absolutely muted, so we don't have full white or full black or anything like that. It's just a beautiful image.
Okay, Joe. So you gave a 76. What was
I
behind your
did.
thinking?
Okay, so I look at this image. Yes, I love the colour palette. It's beautiful. I don't agree that the highlights aren't blown out. I'm losing detail on the top of those clouds, and I keep getting drawn right up, and out of the frame. Those two little figures, I wish they were somewhere else in this composition. It just feels awkward. I know they're just too obvious in that spot, and it doesn't really speak of a beautiful, subtle moment. It just, or a subtle story. It just sort of goes smack bang, they're in the middle, we want you to see them and figure it out, but I just don't get the narrative on this. I'm listening, I really am.
Okay, let's
Convince
go and
me.
talk to Harriet, because she saw something in it that gave her a reason for gold.
I mean, I agree really with Paul. I think, we've seen some minimalist work tonight, and I feel like this is done at a really excellent level. It's high key, but they've held all the colour. I see that they've held all the highlights, and then you don't even realise it until you sort of get up close a bit more, and then those little people bring the story. So, yeah, that's what I see.
Okay, does anyone else wish to add anything? Yeah. Alan?
So I'm in that gold category too, and I went just to 90. I wanted to go higher, but again, I would have gone higher if our two figures that I'm going to go like you've got someone who's just passed and like a heavenly person going, hey, we're going to go off to heaven now. We're here. It's awesome. Look at the palette. If they were in a slightly different position, yes. But I also think just because it's centre, it makes us go straight to them and zoom. We want to go forwards.
Nathan, you have something?
Just one question, since you can reply. Why so much space if the story is just in the centre area? Why so much everywhere else?
So I disagree that the story is only in the centre. I think the story is these two diminutive figures in a vast space, and I think that's what makes the story. And the ethereal nature, the colour palette, all support that. I think it's just a mastery in minimalism that we've seen today.
Okay, you'll hold your score. Everyone else can rescore. Thank you. And we have a 90 gold award. Next image, please. Image scores 78. We'll have to challenge that. 83. Harriet, everyone else is in You've got an 80, a 75, a 74 and a 78.
Yeah, I had this at 83, so a sort of a solid silver. I think it's a beautiful image. There's a lot of sunset here, but the colours have been really held really subtly, and it's really it adds to those subtle colours add to that sort of beautiful, misty kind of feel of the landscape. I think the panoramic works well for this, and yeah, I think it's I'm not asking for gold here, but I think it's a solid silver.
Alan, 74.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of more sits in that highly commended kind of space, just because, again, everything is great. It's been handled really well. The photographer has done a great job at capturing this, but I don't think there is that extra little element of oomph, of story, of light, or something there to really make it go to that next level. So, and I also find that very central composition line, kind of maybe if it was off center a little bit more, it would help it. But at the moment, I feel it's just a really, really great image that doesn't quite get to that award level.
Okay, Paul, you gave this a low silver.
Yeah, look, I hear you, Alan. I think it's a bit beyond highly commended. I was in very, very low silver. I think the colour palette and the almost silhouette nature of it, it captured my attention. Perhaps we could have a slightly different crop and make it even more panoramic and might make it more interesting. But I think it's a good silver.
Okay, back to you, Harriet.
Yeah, I think it's all been said. I think there is light and shadow within all that mist and those clouds. So just on that note, I think the photographer's done a good job finding detail and finding, mixed mood in there. And commend them for not going too hard on the contrast of the silhouette as well, keeping it nice and subtle.
Okay, you hold your score at 83. Everybody take on board what you've just heard. And let's see where you think this deserves to sit. And we have an average of 80, but a score of 79 by majority. So close, but no chocolates. All right, we're going to have a quick judge change. If I can ask Joe to have a break, and Nathan can have a break. Okay, and we have Kelly and Mika back, please. All right. Next image, please. Keep it moving. Just a reminder, this is the professional digital category of landscape, sponsored by Godox. Thank you again to Godox for their support. Tomorrow there's some workshops going on in the morning with Nathan Madigan, How Stories Work, storytelling masterclass for artists in business. And then the afternoon and also in the morning with Kelly Barker, your creative process workshop. So two of our judges here will be sharing their wares tomorrow. How are we going, judges? We have a silver award at 81. Everybody pretty consistent. Great composition, good handling of the light, good detail, nicely edited. Yeah, beautiful moment well captured. Just watch your halos on the right and across the hillsides there. Next image, please. Again, tomorrow afternoon, after those seminars around 2 o'clock, there will be a panel which will discuss things such as AI and our photography futures, images to legacy, establishing your photographic legacy, and a few things like that with some interesting speakers. Please come along, it'll be quite conversational. and very relaxed. I think we've got a few bean bags and you can lay around and grab a coffee or whatever and sit back and we'll have a nice little chat. And then from 4 o'clock onwards, we have the Australian prize winners will be announced, the Australian Photographic Prize, and the awards presentation which will take place. And followed by that at 6 o'clock is an after party, which is always a little bit of fun for some and more fun for others, depending how far you indulge, I suppose. Okay, just waiting on one more score to come in. And we have a score of 84, which is a solid silver. And we have an elective challenge from Mika on 89. Everybody's in the silver range, 81 through to 87. Thanks, Mika.
The delicacy and the handling of the photograph is exceptional. The way that it's almost like a drawing. I'd love to see it printed. I know we're not judging a print, but I recommend that the photographer do that. But even as a digital image, you just get that real superb, delicate, ethereal moodiness. I'm really getting emotion from this image, and I think we've seen a lot of beautiful landscapes today, but I think this one in particular has brought me into the place. I want to be there. I'm really feeling the peace and the serenity. I think the composition is actually excellent. I know it would be tempting to try and include more of the reflection or more of the sky, but I think that by holding it where it is, it's really drawing attention to the beautiful shapes of those swans, which are positioned just perfectly. So I've scored this 89, and I'd love to hear more.
Alan?
I was down at that sort of lower end because, again, I love how this has been handled and what's happening. It's just with an image like this, you're drawn to the darkest areas. So I want those swans to be the darkest areas, but I go to them and then I guess drop straight out of the image into those reflections at the bottom. So if they had been lightened up, that would take me in, and then also right on the left, you've got that land, which is that sort of same tone as the swans. So I really wish that was still a little bit toned up so that we could actually keep looking into these amazing shapes and lines that are everywhere.
Let's have a listen to Harriet on 87.
Yeah, I'm up in high silver as well. I think it's beautiful subtlety. I don't have much more to say. Mickey said it all, and I agree. This one's could pop a little bit more. However, I kind of like the photographer's restraint in keeping it in that really subtle, sketchy look.
An ethereal palette.
Yeah, sorry.
High key. Back to you, Mika.
So, Alan,
Not in a bad way.
I can hear what you're saying with regards to the darkness of the reflection and the soil on the right. However, that's what held me back from gold. So yes, it's where you sit on the importance of those things, but for me, it's the emotion, it's the etherealness, it's the delicacy, the restraint, as Harriet said. I think all of those things make it a really exquisite image. Please come up.
Okay, you hold your score, Mika. Everybody else can rescore. This image now moves to 86. Well done. Okay, let's have the next image, please. Thank you, judges. '77, highly commended work. Yes, absolutely. Let's have a comment from Kelly, please.
The tones in this are really quite lovely. It just could do with a little bit of a lift to really direct the viewer to that central point of view and enhance that lovely little trail leading straight up to the subject.
Thanks, Kelly. Next image, please. This image gets an 83 Silver Award. A challenge from Harriet on 90. You've got a range from 78, a couple of 82s and an 84.
Yeah, look, I just tipped it into 90. I just get a lot of emotion and feeling from this image. There's a lot of drama and there's a lot of movement, and that's what makes me excited. So I feel like, the story in it, I guess. I love the way those clouds at the top of that mountain are sort of whooshing up into the storm cloud. I think that's just wonderful. And I love that there's this, dark storm cloud, and then we get these, it sort of peters off into this lightness over this side. Again, it's really subtle in a way. The photographer could have really, punched some contrast and punched those shadows in and made it really dramatic, but they didn't. They held back, and the drama's still there. There's detail in all of in the whole frame, and the way it sort of falls off to this cool blue at the bottom of the mountain there is just really lovely. So, it's the story and the drama in this that I'm really excited about, and that's why I kind of put it into gold, but I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks.
Okay, Paul, on 78.
So I'm much lower. And look, it's a lovely image. I didn't get quite the sense of drama. I can see some of it, but what really took me down was the dust spots in the clouds.
Am I going to hate you, Paul?
No, probably not, but they're there. There's one there, a couple there. They're sort of all over the place. So it's such a pity because I think that would have got me into silver at the very minimum, probably into mid to high silver without those.
Okay, let's hear from Mika, maybe, on 84. Thank you.
I saw the dust spots as well, and I also saw bottom right, there's just a little bit of vegetation poking up into the frame that just doesn't need to be there. But otherwise, I'm feeling the emotion, I'm enjoying the flow, the movement, so I can definitely see what you're seeing, Harriet. It's just those little things.
Okay, anything to add? Anybody? Okay, otherwise we're back to Harriet.
Okay, I hear that. That's frustrating. And yes, the little bits of vegetation, I see that as well. Having said that, because I've walked back into the frame, I can see even less just lovely detail with all these beautiful little highlights that are really in the mountain, and this amazing wisps of smoke that are coming off little ledges in the mountain. There's so much sort of shadow and highlight that's coming through here. So look, I can see that, if dust spots and those technical problems keep it out of gold, I can understand, but I think this is a really beautiful, evocative image, and I think we should be thinking, to bring it into silver or high silver would be lovely.
Okay, you hold your score at 90, and everybody else rescore, please. 85, good solid silver. I'd just like to share with the photographer that being in these places and getting these types of atmospheric conditions and just being in that right space is very difficult. And the worst thing is to come away with an image that you've missed the moment or you've completely stuffed up the shot, it's out of focus. The real takeaway here is the things that all the judges have talked about are all quite easily fixed, and you could turn this image into a very high scoring print without a lot of work. So I think you owe the judges a drink, and we look forward to seeing this image maybe somewhere down the track where it's really going to fly. So well done. Next image, please. Image scores 80, silver award. Well done. Harriet, what could be done to lift this a little bit higher?
Yeah, I would just say maybe just pull back on the processing just a little bit. It seems a little bit overzealous. It's perhaps, you know, we're really bringing out that beautiful galaxy there, or solar system, or the sky anyway. But the foreground is quite green in colour, quite tinged, potentially just bringing back a bit of contrast and saturation. A little bit more subtlety might have kind of lifted it a bit more.
Bit of romance.
Bit of romance.
Next image, please. Yeah.
No, not now.
This image scores 81, silver award. Everybody pretty close. Kelly, tell us why it got a silver.
The tones and some the attention to detail is pretty phenomenal. I would love to have either seen it directly in the middle, or not, or more off kilter. The solarization that seems to have come from potentially over processing is just a little distracting from the fantastic elements.
Yep, thanks, Kelly. We're going to have another judge change. Alan, you can take a break, please. And also Paul Dodd, you can take a break. And if I could have Joe and Paul Holden join the panel, please. Next image, please. Image score is 79. Are we all okay with that, or do we wish to look further? Challenge from Mika on 85. There's an 82, a 73, a 76 and a 78. Thanks, Mika.
So this is a very dramatic image. The really black camel thorn trees in the foreground contrast beautifully against the orange of the dune, and those layers, including the foreground and then the strip of the clay pan, and then the orange dune and the red dune and the blue sky. I think that's been really well seen and well put together. The little figures, I would have liked to have seen them have a little bit more of a purpose, but the brights on them has been really well handled, and it certainly gives you a sense of scale with regards to the size of these trees. It is, I know, a well photographed location, but I feel like the photographer has really maximised what they have available to them. So yeah, I scored it 85, and I'd like to hear from others why they perhaps held back from that.
Harriet, 73.
This is a sort of image of two parts for me. The top part is so graphic and gorgeous, and the detail that's been held in those two oranges and the sky is really lovely, and the silhouette of the trees is great. I feel the bottom of the image just washes out a little bit. There's sort of not that punch that the rest of the image has. It sort of goes to grey a little bit. And the people and the foliage that's happening behind the trees in that sort of like orange to pale band, I don't feel has been held that well. I feel like I'm losing the people and the rocks there. But I hear what you're saying, and I want to be brought up.
Okay, Kelly.
Sure, I scored this in the silver range too, just a lower silver, but I'm with you. It's definitely visually appealing for me from the back, and I really, as I came up closer, I was a little disappointed. I agree, I do actually feel the hots are too hot. There is a very cool juxtaposition between a disconnect and a connect, which I'm really enjoying. There's a connection between the patterns and the textures between the deep red, the orange and the foreground, which I love that it kind of brings together. But the deep the contrast really does make it visually appealing. So I'm in the silver range, and I'll come up to support, but I certainly feel it's worthy of silver.
Okay, if we have nothing to add.
It does have very bold graphical strength. Where I feel like, to me, it falls down a little bit maybe on that sense of mastery or subtlety is how the tonal range is handled. It feels a bit rough, and there's a bit of room to be more fluid and binding and cohesive with how that's handled. You could richen the blues a little bit more to give it that greater spatial depth. You could lighten that strip down the middle that kind of just pokes you in the eye a little bit, and maybe that would bring the people with a bit more presence into the frame rather than being half washed out. And again, that's about what I have to add.
Okay, back to you, Mika.
I hear what you say about the foreground, but it is in shadow, and that's really, I like that there's an additional layer, and so I'm not so bothered by the muddiness of the foreground, simply because it is conveying that it's in shadow and the photographer is in shadow. In terms of the holding of the highlights on the people, we're talking literally 1 or 2 or 3 pixels of highlight here. If you look at the entire scene, I'm very happy to say that that's not a hugely blown highlight, but yeah, it's pixels. I really love the textures, the surrealness of it. In terms of Paul's suggestion about the blues, I think adding an additional colour would probably be too much, a bit overkill. So I'm quite happy with it being the way that it is. But yeah, I just think, just a few more points, peoples, please.
Okay, so you hold your score. Everybody else rescore, please. And image is a majority 79. Okay, next image please. Again, a thank you to Godox, our sponsor for this category. Amazing creators and innovators in the lighting area. Also to the people at KL who supplied the AZO monitors and some of the lighting that we used in the print judging. We're very grateful to all our sponsors for their support. This image scores 85, everybody very solidly in the middle of the silver range. Congratulations. I think this image could have gone even higher if it just had a little bit more of it, just toned down a little bit more, get a little bit more drama out of it, because just a little bit light in the middle. Lovely addition to the flowers, a little cookie or nugget, as we talked about earlier, and the drama that's coming out of that cloud has been really well handled with the darker cloud operating as a vignette and bringing us down into the image, and of course a nice placement with the reflection in the little pond. Yeah, sure. I was just doing it for you.
That's okay. When you're working with reflections, make sure that your lighting in the reflection matches your lighting in the actual scene as well. We're not seeing any of the drama in the sky or on the mountain in that reflection, and it's so beautiful. So yeah, but well done.
Thank you. Next image, please. Sorry. Oh. There is an artist statement with this one. A split shot showcasing the vibrant coral reefs that surround Arborek Island, Raja Ampat. Image scores 80, silver award, everybody very close. Paul, quick comment if you will. Thank you. The underwater photographer you are.
I try everything once. Don't tell everyone that. Yeah, the detail on the bottom is really amazing. The optical clarity is quite astonishing, and the depth in there is fantastic. Where I feel like I struggle a little bit with this image is the visual weight and balance between the top and the bottom. I appreciate the line in the middle, and I think there's something there, and I appreciate the depth of field with the softness in the background, but all this competing blue sky on the top right doesn't sort of add. If anything, it actually takes away. And so I'm not sure if it's different crops to work with, or even if you're allowed to put a different sky in there. I think you are in this category, so composites are allowed. So there's a consideration here of the overall visual balance of the scene, I think, and including that much negative space at the top in particular.
Okay, thank you. Next image, please. Image scores 78, everybody very close to that. Although we do have somebody sitting a bit higher, Paul on 84, who's chosen to challenge. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the framing and the spatial relationship of this image all the way around the frame is quite majestic. The detail in the foreground and the lifting up and this kind of accentuation of the lifting by the shape upon shape sort of behind each other. And we're wonderfully held at the top of the frame, and we are piercingly pulled through by that highlight. And, part of me wants to, suggest, could this be an exposure blend and soften that element? But it's sort of a bit unashamedly loud, and it just sort of shouts around and just throws your eye in different directions, and it pulls you back and forth in a stronger way than it would if it was so gentle. And I'm actually really enjoying that kind of visual massage, as it were. So I'm on 84.
Kelly, you're on 76.
Yeah, look, compositionally, I think this is actually really strong. My eye just flies out of the frame on both sides, so I feel the photographer hasn't highlighted the actual central point of view in a decisive manner, perhaps. The mountains on the right-hand side are beautifully captured. There's actually, I think, almost an image on that side without that central point of view.
Okay, anyone else that wish to add to the conversation? Joe?
I can. I agree with what's been said already, but I don't find, I find that the overlapping of the two rock structures, the two mountains, I find that confusing. And I don't feel like there's enough separation between them for me to really stop just sort of bouncing between the two, saying, what am I supposed to be looking at here? I do enjoy all the greenery, and I find the highlights distracting. It's almost like there's two sunrises or two sunsets going on.
Okay, back to you, Paul.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Fire in Peace, isn't it? And that it's a gentle foreground, and there's a softness to it and a grace, and yet the background's on bloody fire, and it's just about ripping our eyeballs out. And like I said, that visual oscillation is what I'm actually, in this case, particularly drawn to, and I feel like that throws me in and around the frame, and it really pulls me back and sweeps around on those beautiful curving hills in the background, especially on the right there. And yet I'm given this lovely resting point and space to settle my eyes a little bit on the top if I need to take a break from that fire. And in that regard, I think it's quite magnificent in terms of that visual space we're given all the way along the frame. Mixed feelings about that, Joe. I think you've got a point there about that, but it's not something I noticed until you pointed it out. There is, if you were up higher or a different, if you had a 400-foot high step ladder, maybe you could do that in that case. But anyway, enough said for me. I think it at least deserves a silver.
All right, you hold your score, Paul, at 84. Everyone else can rescore. And this image scores 79 and is a highly commended image. Well done. We'll have one more image, thanks. Or we'll have another image, or the next image, or the one that's coming next. Several ways to describe it. And this image scores 81, silver award. And I'm going to challenge that. I think that I would like you to take another look at the emotive quality, the use of the tonal range, and the depth through composition. So let's have a conversation. Everybody can speak. You don't have to. If you have nothing to add, feel free to pass it on, and then you'll all get the chance to score again, but you only get the chance to speak once. Without any volunteers, I'll start with Harriet in the middle.
Yeah, I was really excited when this popped up. I love the use of black and white. Coming in closer, those trees in the background are just stunning. The detail they've got in those really trees far back is just really beautiful, and the sort of fairy nature of it. I'm distracted by the big fern in the front, and I'm distracted by the big tree trunk. I feel that really it grounds it too much, and this sort of ethereal sort of fairyland is brought into reality too much. I gave it a low silver, and I'm happy to probably come up a little bit. However, yeah, those two things just really sort of jar me out of this kind of like fairy wonderland.
All right, Paul, did you want to add something? You're at 83.
I mean, the delicacy of every single part of this image through to the very, very finest detail at the back of the frame is quite astonishing, actually. And you cannot applaud the photographer more for whatever the technical capacity, glass or choice they made to do that. And partly the lighting has allowed that to happen. Compositionally, I struggle a little bit. Again, it feels broken in a few places and separated in places. And I want to be led down to the depth, not just by default, but by design. And I don't feel like I am.
Okay, let's go to someone, Kelly.
I actually agree with everything that's been said. My probably one comment to add would be I actually feel the depth hasn't actually been capitalised. For me, that grey patch right in the middle, there's so much information in there, and I actually think you could really capitalise on that, and it's just a slightly missed opportunity.
Okay, Joe.
I was in the middle, smack bang in the middle of silver, and I was doing that because I think that this is, you know, the technique used and the depth and the beautiful just gradient of all the tones, the use of all the tones through that image is wonderful, but I'm stuck on the composition. It just doesn't feel balanced to me. I find the twiggy stick on the right-hand side is a little bit jarring compared to the beautiful tree ferns, and then you've got that big tall tree smack bang in the middle, which just, I know it pulls into the ones on the left, but I just don't feel like the composition really brings me up any higher than where I'm at, but beautiful.
Awesome. Everybody's happy? Okay, you can all rescore. You can leave your scores where they are. You can change your scores. It's entirely up to you. Image scores 83, silver award. And sometimes a panel mentor might challenge purely to allow the audience to hear the reasons why, what might they think should have got a slightly different score, why it didn't get there. And I think that was really good conversation as to what was holding it back. So thank you, judges. Let's do a quick judge change. Could I please have Mika, you can have a little break again, thank you. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, who else was going to step up? So now I'll have Nathan come back, please. And Joe, you can take another break, and let's have Alan back, please. Next image, please. This image scores 79. It's a highly commended image by majority. Yes. Now let's get a comment perhaps from Harriet as to what could be done to lift that a little bit higher. Thanks, Harriet. I felt that.
Sorry, I
Sparks
think I'm
flew.
sparking everyone, yeah. Yeah, really interesting angle and capture, and I applaud the photographer for, going for a different viewpoint. The front of the image is very heavy in vignette and also in object, and the back of the image is quite sort of small back there. So yeah, perhaps getting down and low is really interesting because we're seeing a different angle, different perspective. But perhaps the cropping or the viewpoint could have kind of come around to the right or left a little bit to move away from that big block at the front.
Thank you, Harriet. Next image, please.
Oh, thanks, Tony.
Long day, Harriet. Okay. We got you back. You can translate it.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, this is the Digital Landscape category at the Australian Photographic Prize Awards, sponsored by Godox. Image scores 81, Silver Award. Alan, challenge from Alan Moyle, an 88. You have a 79, 76 and 282s to work with, Alan.
There's a great sort of wave that happens through here. You have that sort of straightness of those poles and the fence coming up, and then you have that beautiful wave that kind of happens through the wires that are going to go going everywhere. So to me, that kind of gives it that beautiful form, and then the fact that it's not exactly balanced. Sorry, Kelly, can I get to the print? The fact that it's not quite balanced. You've got the darker horizon there on the right that goes to nothing in the left, and that balances the not quite even nature of it. So I love how it is a slightly challenging composition. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but it tells a great story, and it's got a great sort of environment happening. Not environment. Words are gone. I'll pass it on.
Atmosphere.
Love to see it come up to high 80.
Nathan, 76.
Yep, highly commended for those reasons. The asymmetry is wonderful. Let's get some negative space up ahead and have this beautiful structure with all of its repeated movement. But now that we've chosen asymmetry, what are we going to do with that space? It's not entirely negative because there's stuff in it, but the stuff is distracting. I'm losing my way into the void on the right-hand quarter there. The horizon just disappears. So I really appreciate the photographer's eye on this, but either crop it all and keep us in that beautiful tangle of man-made thing, or maybe bring back some of the loss of detail in that horizon.
Okay, Kelly, you've got something to say? You're sitting in the middle.
Sure, just a small thing to add because I absolutely agree with both of you. I just have to mention the muddiness of that bottom section. It just keeps pulling my eye down, but that fence is just phenomenal. So there's so much potential in this image, either a crop or just tone those front section down.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Alan.
Yeah, and again, I think that means we should bring it up into that sort of little bit higher into the range of the silvers. Again, I think the muddiness kind of helps. It feels like this is a flood, so it feels like that's this is a structure that's not supposed to be in water. We're not supposed to see this reflection happening through here, and so I feel that lightness kind of brings us through the image. It actually makes us look around. That negative space actually helps draw us right through the image. So I'd love to see that come back up into a 8/3 or a 4. Thanks.
Okay, so Alan, you're an 88. You hold your score. Everybody else can rescore, please. Image scores 82. Silver award. And the next image, please. Image scores 81, silver award. Everybody pretty much in there. Paul, you were bang on 81. Tell everybody why and what maybe could be done to improve it.
Could I please see this in black and white? Absolutely. I think it'd be absolutely magnificent. I feel like there's somehow a little bit lost in the conversation with colour here that is more distracting than supportive. I feel like the tonality and the heaviness and the blacks on the right as an entry point is a little bit too heavy. But the middle section was handled beautifully. Part of me wants to have something else to draw me a little bit further around the corner. I know this valley, there is a beautiful corner you sweep around there. And perhaps a little bit more space on the top. But I'd love to see this in black and white, please.
Thank you, Paul. And that is the end of the category. Congratulations for that person, everyone. I will ask that all the judges stay behind for the moment, please, till we sort out who's needed for further duties. I'd like you to...
Thank you to the panel chair and the tech
team. Elijah and Lauren have kept the tech side going, things. Belinda here, we had Alicia earlier. So yeah, certainly couldn't do it without that additional input. You start running out of words at the end of the day. But you know what we mean. Thank you to GoDocs again for the incredible support, and particularly to Nikon, who've been the major sponsor, I think, in many ways with the major prizes. We really appreciate the support. Take every chance you can to thank them. Take every chance you can to thank the volunteers and the people behind the scenes, and make sure you give Robin a hug every time you get a chance. And Chris, because those two in particular, along with Kat and Boots and a few of that inside team, they really need some support. Hang around, don't forget, I'm sure we're going to see you all tomorrow. There's plenty of events going on. Make sure you're part of all of that. Thanks for being great judges. Good job today. Everything went well. Good luck if you did enter. I hope you do well tomorrow at the awards presentation. And to the people back home, thanks for listening in. We hope you've enjoyed the show, so to speak, and we hope that you were successful. If not, we hope you took away some great input and information. I think there was plenty there, and we've got an incredible band of judges that came together to supply that. So thanks again. We'll sign off here. Judges, again, if you can stay behind. Anybody else, thanks for joining us.